Everyone, welcome to Strong Mind, Strong Body. I'm Angie Miller, your host, and today we are going to talk about motivation. I don't know about you, but sometimes I really lack motivation. This morning was one of those mornings. I've been into fitness for decades, but some days, even just walking up the stairs to my fitness studio seems like a lot of effort. So if even those of us those of us who are so committed to health and wellness, even if we struggle with motivation sometimes, imagine our clients and the rest of the world at large trying to motivate themselves every day to get up and do the hard work to stay healthy. So I called on a friend of mine. His name is Raphael Konforti, and he is the senior director of fitness for YouFit Gyms. And I met Raphael at Idea World last year, and he has amazing hair, by the way, side note. So I'm going to bring him in and just have him introduce himself. So how you doing, Raphael?
Hi, I'm doing great, Angie. It's good to see you again. Yeah, we definitely saw the hair come down a little bit at Idea.
Wait,
But
I think your hair had to come down because I stole your hair tie.
yeah, that's the story as I remember it too. I think you also went off for a little bit of karaoke after that. So great
Oh,
conference.
I think it was actually Rick Ritchie. I was in the
Ah,
stands watching it all take place, but having a little bit of FOMO, like, karaoke FOMO, where I was like, I totally want that microphone right now. But it was probably better that I never got it. So, Raphael, you work for YouFit Gyms. You're the senior director of fitness. So I'm going to guess that you do a lot of motivating of teams and your local community and your clients at large. Am I right?
you're right, definitely. My role at YouFit Gyms is I work with all of the fitness staff, so our personal trainers or small group trainers. A lot of what I do is bringing them on, helping them to be successful. And to be successful as a fitness professional, like you're saying, you have to get your clients to want to come to the gym, to want to do all those things that we know are going to get to those end results. And as a fitness professional, like you're saying, there's days that I don't feel like working out. So there's definitely days that your clients aren't going to feel like working out. There's times where you're ready to get after a session, you're ready to get after a small group training class. However, some days you're not. So how do you stay motivated? How do you stay committed? It's really important within this role.
Yeah, that's a big job, actually. That's a big job to motivate your teams, motivate your clients, to constantly be kind of the cheerleader for everybody and make sure that everybody is kind of up to speed on what does motivate clients. And we're going to deep dive into that for a minute. But I was thinking today when I struggled to walk up the stairs so far away into my yoga and fitness studio, I thought, gosh, if I didn't struggle once in a while, I probably would lack some empathy on what it's like for other people. So maybe sometimes the struggle being so real is kind of what grounds us and pulls us back a little bit and makes us realize, y- you know what, that's what makes us human. Right.
Mhm.
So even it's just like healthy eating. I know what to eat. It doesn't mean I always practice it in theory. So, what we know and all the science, all the research, all the evidence, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what makes us put our feet on the floor and hop up those stairs or get in the car to go to the gym.
Mhm.
So, that said, um, what is, if somebody says to you, Raphael, what's the number one thing that makes you wanna kinda get into what motivates a client? Where do you start with that whole motivation piece when you meet a new client?
Mhm. Yeah. And it really starts when you meet that new client. Everybody has a process that they go through when it comes to building rapport, going through Part Q, doing motivational interviewing. What a lot of people don't realize is why they're doing those things is to keep them motivated. So sometimes people can kind of breeze through those things and not take enough time going through them. But there's always a few questions that I always go through. And the way I like to think about it with trainers or with clients is we always have a script, we always have a part key, we always have a list of questions. But what matters most is did you get the information that you're looking for? And I usually break it down into seven questions that you need to find the answer to. It's what are they looking to accomplish? That's usually the general overarching goal. What exactly do they want to accomplish? So getting a number behind it, quantifying it in some way. When do they want to accomplish that by? Is there a marker or is there a motivating event that we can find? And that sets us up for what you're really looking for. Just, well, why do you want to do this in the first place? And then the second part of that question is, well, why do you want to do it now? Why today? Why didn't you wait for yet? Why didn't you wait until tomorrow? Why did you decide today instead of yesterday? And then it comes down to the how after that, which is how you're able to help them reach those goals. But you've got to go through that process of uncovering why this goal is important to them. And we can dive deeper into that as well.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so, actually, because I was holding on with bated breath because I hear all the motivational interviewing in there, which is pivotal. And I love that you said, our information is only as sound as the questions that we ask. So we're kind of on a seek and discover mission, and we're only going to get the information based on, well, how good are our questions? And also, how much are we willing to listen and wait for responses? Because the tricky thing about motivation is, and we can talk about this later too, is it changes over time. And what motivated me to start with you is probably not going to be what motivates me a year from now to stay with you. So you started with, what are they looking to accomplish? And I know you got to, when are they looking to accomplish it? But what was the second part of that? What are they looking to accomplish? And what was the second one of that?
So, what are they looking to accomplish? What exactly are they looking to accomplish? When, why now, how?
All right. So I love the why and then the why now, because a lot of times people will say, well, my why is because, I don't know, for an older adult, my why is because I want to play with my grandkids, or for a mom, it might be because I want to be healthy for my kids. But then the question is, well, then why now? Like, your kids are 12 and 14. What's really the impetus now? And I bet when you ask that why now is when you really, really start to get deep into it. Because if you were to ask me, hey, Angie, what's your motivation? I would tell you it's more to keep my brain healthy than it is to have these big, strong, burly muscles, which I don't have big, strong, burly muscles. But anyway, which that's good because that's not my goal. And then you would say, well, why? Well, why? Because, I've seen dementia related diseases and I know how that ravishes families and the person affected. And if you ask me why now, well, I would say because, the clock is ticking toward the other way. And so we don't age backwards. And so it becomes more and more powerful and important to me as I gently add a birthday every year. I had to think I was going to word that one.
Yeah,
As I gently add a birthday every year.
yeah.
All right.
As
So,
you gradually gain wisdom.
yes, as I gradually gain there's another one. So, I'm just on a side note, what's your motivation for exercise?
Well, like you said, it's changed a lot. The first time I exercised, I wanted to lose weight. I wanted to get in shape. I wanted to build confidence. Now, my latest motivation, I just signed myself up, or actually, my wife signed me up for a half Ironman. So now I have a really specific training goal, and that's more of just, hey, I want to do it to challenge myself, to push myself, and not looking for any type of aesthetic results. But I just want to push myself, challenge myself, and have that discipline to be able to do something like that.
She signed you up for a half marathon? Wow. Is that a gift, or wait, you said Ironman, didn't you? Half Ironman, or
Yep, half Ironman.
oh, wow. So that's either the gift that keeps giving back, or that's a gift like, I'm kind of mad at you and I'm going to put you up to this now.
Yeah.
That's amazing, actually. That's great because that's a very targeted motivation.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, you ask these clients these questions and then you get to the why now. What comes after that?
Then we need to make sure that we've understood them correctly. And that's where a lot of people go amiss is we think we hear a goal or we hear a word that we're so used to hearing and so used to associating to a certain goal that we don't rephrase what they've said to ensure that we've heard them, we've listened to them, and we're using their exact words. Now, what I always say is whether this is a sales process, whether it's somebody who's already started as a client, you need to be able to take all that information and paint two pictures because humans are fundamentally motivated by a few things. That's getting out of pain, moving towards pleasure, or energy conservation. It's easier to do nothing than it is to deal with this pain or to deal with this pleasure. So what you want to do at that point is get all the details. What does that event look like? What does that timeline look like? What's happened to you in your life? Now, how is your life going to change if you do nothing? And maybe you actually regress down this path. And I literally want to have a crystal ball in front of them that they can look at and they can see. It's almost like one of those Christmas movies, right? If you don't do anything different, this is what your life is going to be. And
Right.
then I like to paint it on the flip side, the positive. Well, you've already taken a great step in getting started meeting today. So let's fast forward to this event or to this health marker. Here's how your life is going to be different. Is that something worth working towards? Because we know it's going to take some level of sacrifice and getting them excited for that future version. Because at the end of the day, that's really what they're training with you for. It's It's not to feel better today, it's for some future event that they're looking for, some future state of what they believe is going to make them happy. And I think at the end of the day, the motivation and the why, you know you've got it if you found happiness. Like, most people are working towards happiness. So getting out of pain is going to make me happier. Moving towards this better state is going to make me happy. So if you're able to put them in that seat of seeing themselves happier, healthier, that's how you know you've got it. But you've got to paint that picture for them.
So you're using guided imagery or visualization along with that. I'm hearing so much motivational interviewing, and I absolutely feel like I wanted to drop the mic at that one point when you said, okay, you heard them, but did you really hear them? Is essentially what you're saying, because you're saying you might have heard a word or a phrase that you're used to hearing, and then you automatically make associations because that's what our brain does. And you
Mhm.
assume that they're in the same pool with everybody else because you heard this word or that phrase. But at the end of the day, what you're really saying is stop and listen for a minute, because there are some nuances to that person's story. And what I'm really hearing is you want to hear their story. There's
Mhm.
some nuances to their story. Yes, maybe their story does sound familiar to someone else's story, but every chapter in their book is a little bit different. And they're if they give you more details, you're going to get deeper into why this is so important to them. And then you went right into kind of the visualization, or maybe writing a script for what this is going to be like, because it is going to be hard. You're right. And so it's like, what's your life going to be like when you actually accomplish this? And that's good for people to think about, because is the pain, or is the gain worth the pain, right? They really need to think this through and really uncover. If you told me I'm going to run a marathon, it might sound good in theory, but you're going to need to deep dive with me and make me really walk you through it, because you're going to need to make sure that I'm being real with myself about some of the discomfort that I'm going to experience and what I can expect at the end. So I think that's amazing.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
just listening to their words and making sure you use their words is really critical. So if they say tone up, or if they describe the body or health or something with a very specific word, a lot of people want to change the wording to make it seem like they're really understanding them, but you actually might disconnect more.
Mm.
I know you talked about the 5 levels of listening in an earlier episode, and I believe that's where empathy comes in, is when you really describe it the way that they're describing it. That's how I know you heard me. And I think, especially in today, the value of somebody feeling listened to is at an all-time premium, because we're being talked at through so many different things,
Mhm.
maybe through your work, through your social media. So when somebody actually stops, puts 100% focus on you, listens, not just here's the words you're saying, because we've all been there where it's like somebody repeats back what you said, but they have no idea what you just said.
Right.
You actually understand how they feel and why it's important to them. I think that is a huge part of the motivational process, and getting that connection to where you can actually keep them motivated 6 months down the road, a year down the road.
Yeah. And you're saying, you use their words because you want to make sure that you're adjusting and adapting to their language, to the way that they communicate. And you're showing that you value their words, you value the way that they communicate, but you're also putting some feeling and some thought into that. So that, again, it's not just regurgitating words, it's actually being in the moment and being very present to their thoughts. So I think that everything you just said is pretty amazing. And again, I really like the visualization. So, Raphael, I want to reintroduce you. So, I'm talking to Raphael Konforti, and he is the Senior Director of Fitness for YouFit Gyms. And we're talking about motivation. So, we are basically talking about how to maximize client motivation, because at the end of the day, all of us, no matter how highly motivated we are or not, we all need a little extra motivation. And we really need people to hear our story and to really get in deep to what is most meaningful, impactful to us, so that you can motivate me the way that I most need to be motivated today. Right. And so that's what Raphael is talking about. So, a lot of techniques from motivational interviewing, a lot of visualization. Is there anything that you want to say more to this part before we kind of move on into your? I know you have a very special kind of thing that you also do with clients. So, is there anything else you want to say about this?
I think just the important thing to remember is what humans are motivated by. And it's your job to help them figure out what that pain or what that pleasure is in their life. Because a lot of people just know something isn't right. I want to change something. But often by the time they've come to you, they haven't actually done the work to explore those. So you can't expect them to already know what that why is, you're really going to have to take your time and work with them through it. It's not going to be an instant thing. It's your role to uncover that for them. And don't expect them to already have done this or put this thought into it. So it could get very emotional, and that's okay.
Yeah. It reminds me a lot of therapy actually, because, somebody might come in and know that there's something wrong in their relationship or there's something wrong with their job. But if they knew exactly what was wrong and if they knew exactly what they needed to do, heck, they wouldn't be coming. And so to your point, like they come to you and they're looking for some guidance, but you need to help them dig deep and ask a lot of questions and pull information. It's like going fishing. Don't feed their brain with information and thoughts. Allow them to give you the information. And the type of therapy that I use is highly based on motivational interviewing. It's highly based on, what I would call extraction theory. I'm extracting from my clients what it is that is deep within them, because they're the best driver of their own vehicle. Who am I to get in the driver's seat and tell them what's best
Mhm.
for them?
Mhm.
So, and I like to describe motivational interviewing as you are like a passenger and your client has their hand on the wheel and they're in control of the accelerator and the brake, but you get to just kind of motivate them and give them directions. You're kind of like the maps. The
Yeah,
maps application.
yeah. The guide by the side, but if I'm driving the car for you, I can't drive your car for you 24/7. So as soon as I get
Right,
out of the driver's seat, hopefully you don't crash or hopefully you don't just pull over and stop. So you have to
right.
learn to drive the car yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also a lot like raising kids. At the end of the day, what you want is kids who are willing to be independent and autonomous in their thinking. So you want to guide them enough so that they feel the confidence to be able to do that.
Mhm.
So, you had told me, Raphael, about a concept that you're writing on, and it's called the fitness flywheel.
Mhm.
And I know that we didn't really talk about this because I wanted you to tell everybody, and I kind of want to be surprised myself. So, what is the fitness flywheel, and how do you use this with motivation?
Mhm. Well, so the flywheel is essentially a concept where every action that you take accelerates your progress towards a certain goal. So a good example is Amazon when they first started out. At first with Amazon, their goal was to grow, right? They want to get bigger. Amazon is everything from A to Z. So they figured out, hey, what we need to do is we need to offer more products, right? The more products we offer, the more people are going to come to our website. Well, the more people who come to our website, the more people who are going to want to sell on the website. The more people who sell on the website, the more products are there, the more people are going to want to come. And so this just keeps accelerating and accelerating. As one moves, the next moves. And it's really the same thing for fitness. And the reason I think this concept is so important is that many people overcomplicate what fitness is. There's so many marketing things, there's so many things out there trying to overcomplicate what we actually need to do to feel better. So the fitness flywheel has three different spokes on the wheel, and you need to have all three. It's you need to eat, you need to move, and you need to recover. If you do all those three things, they'll feed into each other. Right? The better food you put into your body, the better workout session you have. The better workout session, well, probably you're going to start to sleep better. You sleep better, that's going to change your cravings. You sleep better, that's going to change your recovery. You're going to be able to work out harder. So all these things feed into each other. The better you eat, the better you sleep. The better you sleep, the better you work out. The better you work out, the better you eat. It's just this concept that keeps going. And what's so important about that is just keeping fundamentals in check of these are the things that you need to do. Let's not overcomplicate it. But as you start seeing that progress and that result, that's where somebody's confidence, motivation, and motivators start to change. That's where people start to go from that extrinsic goal of maybe wanting to look a certain way, wanting to lose a certain amount of weight and going towards that intrinsic goal of feeling better or working towards some type of fitness goal versus I'm doing this for something else. But you start doing it for yourself because you realize how much better you feel.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect. I like the three spokes because you're right. I think we overcomplicate things. We overcomplicate nutrition. We overcomplicate fitness. And at the end of the day, there are three spokes. That is what we're all talking about. We're talking about eating. We're talking about moving. We're talking about recovery. And you're spot on, because if I don't sleep well, I eat not so good. And if I eat not so good, then I really don't want to move. And if I don't want to move, then yeah, I mean, it all goes together. So I like that there's just three spokes, and in a way it's a great way to explain it to people. It's a good visualization, and it really kind of says to them it really isn't that complicated. I mean, within those three spokes we can discover maybe the areas where you struggle the most. right? So at different times in my life, recovery is my hardest one because sleep is my hardest one. At different times in my life, eating, nutrition might be my hardest one. So, but you're right, it just kind of goes in a circular motion. And the more we feed one spoke, the more that the other spokes are going to kind of move seamlessly.
Hmm. Definitely. And that's where the real coaching comes in is everybody knows that they need to eat better, that they need to move, and that they need to sleep. I think that's fairly common knowledge with most of the people we encounter. It's the value of your coaching comes from, well, why should you do those things? What's realistic for you to do? And then also, I think a big part of keeping a client motivated is I can tell you what to do, or I can give you some different options, some different solutions. And if you choose it, you own it, you're more likely to follow through with it. It's like you're saying with kids. If I tell you to do something, you're not going to want to do it. But if you say, hey, do you think I should do this? Hey, that's a great idea. You should, yeah, absolutely, that'll help. You're going to be more inclined to actually follow through with that. So I think that's where the coaching and the motivational interviewing still ties in the deeper you get into nutrition, movement, and recovery.
Right. Well, and you're right. I like the what's realistic
Mhm,
because you can tell me all day long to change this or that eating habit, but what's actually realistic?
mhm,
So I think that's a powerful, powerful question. And it gives people some personal autonomy to say, well, it's realistic for me to cut back on sugar. But if you tell me just to get rid of all sugar, I'm not sure that's completely realistic because sugar's in pretty much most every food. And, unless you're 100% plant-based. So I think that I love that you're asking them continually asking them questions. And I always tell people too in motivational interviewing, you're not asking questions like you're in their face, like peppering them with questions. You're asking questions that are very, very targeted and guided and that open the door for them to write their next chapter. So it's not like you're just peppering them. The questions that you're asking them are going to require deep thought on your from your
mhm.
clients, don't you think?
Yeah. I always say make it a conversation, not an interrogation. And you could think about what an interrogation feels like. It's just question after question, statement after statement, but there's no opportunity for the other side to really speak, to feel things out. And you have to be able to pause and just let people keep talking and let people keep thinking, which is hard to do sometimes as a fitness professional because you're so excited, usually a little bit fast paced, and you just want to go, go, go. But when you're going through those coaching conversations, they tend to be quite slow and you have to allow people the time to think and verbalize and not jump in with an answer.
Yeah. And I also like to tell clients sometimes, when we're thinking through this, feel free, if you want to take notes on some of these things that I'm asking you. And if you get home and you think about some things that you wish you would have said or some things that you want to add next time, just know that I'm always here and I'm always going to invite your thoughts and what comes to you, when you're in the quiet of your home and you're thinking through some of this, there's always going to be time and opportunity and space to add to your story, right? So the story isn't written just because you ask them those questions.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
so is there
Absolutely.
anything else you wanna say about the flywheel? Because one thing I do wanna say is, I'm glad you put recovery in there because I do feel like that was not talked about for a long time in fitness. And yes, we've talked about sleep for a long time, but more and more, I mean, there's so many more methods of recovery that we're just starting to really uncover and recognize and realizing the importance of it. And in some ways, I feel like people are like, oh, we got to talk about the good stuff. The recovery is amazing. So, what are your thoughts about recovery and how that is fitting into clients' motivation?
Mhm. But I think people are tend to be pretty stressed out all the time. Usually they're busy. So you need to make it okay for recovery to be something that's actually going to move them forward. And I think the easiest way to explain it to a client sometimes, like, actually, this workout we did is actually breaking you down, not building you up. It's the recovery that's actually going to make you come back stronger and get towards your goals. So making it okay for recovery to be a good thing, for them to understand where the different stressors are in their life, that, hey, stress is going to affect you, whether it's this physical workout in the gym or whether it's something going on at work, something going on at home. It's all going to impact you. In order to lose weight, to feel healthy, to have energy, you have to learn how to maintain your stress. And recovery is one of those things that you can do that's free in a lot of circumstances, right? Your sleep, if you're able to disconnect from technology, you'd be amazed. It's like a day without a cell phone feels like a week of vacation. So there's so many different free strategies within recovery that I would recommend to clients.
Yeah. And I also think that recovery is almost permission. It's permission to say it's okay to recover. It's okay to take care of your body in a different way. And we're so used to hearing self care that I feel like people are like, oh, I'm tired of hearing about self care. But recovery is saying, I give you permission. And in fact, I invite you and encourage you to constantly be thinking about ways to diminish your stress and to take care of and nurture your body, not just after a workout, but throughout your days and weeks so that you always feel optimal, right? Not just through movement and eating, but through the recovery process.
Yeah. And
So,
as a trainer, sorry, as a trainer, I used to do recovery sessions. Sometimes I would have a client and they would say, I'm stressed out, I'm tired, I really don't feel like lifting. Hey, come in, we'll do some foam rolling, we'll do some Theragun, we'll do movement. And to be honest, those are the sessions that clients that I had for years told me were their favorite. Not the lifting, not hitting a PR, but just coming in and not feeling good, but then going through some really simple recovery strategies for a session, leaving feeling like, okay, now I've got the energy, the mindset to be able to tackle whatever's been stressing me out.
mhm.
I think there's huge value in that as a trainer.
Well, and you took the time and the opportunity to say, we don't have to stick to the script. We
Hmm.
can rewrite the script and change the script according to how you feel. And again, that gives them permission to do it. Somebody might head to the gym and think, I'm going to get on the elliptical today. They get there, they look at the elliptical and they think, I'd rather run it over. Okay. Well, guess what? You can change the script when you get to the gym according to how you feel in that moment. And that's your way of saying, I have the autonomy and the personal empowerment to be able to make my decisions based on how I feel, which means we're teaching our clients how to pay attention to themselves, how
Hmm.
to value how they feel in the moment. Not because they're always looking for an escape door, but because just because you wrote it on your planner and that's what you were planning on doesn't mean that your day went in such a way that is going to work in your favor if you do that kind of workout.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
And there's a lot of technology now that helps people see that, but you also want to make sure that they have the self-awareness to understand, you probably don't need a watch to tell you that you're stressed out, or that you're not recovering well. You know that, but you have to be able to stop and be aware of it. And for some clients who are just love the numbers, need to be quantitative, you can also point to it and say, hey, the last 5 sessions, when I asked you about sleep, you'd slept 5 hours. So what do we think about that? Do we
right.
think there's a coincidence why we maybe don't feel as good as we were a couple weeks ago?
Yeah. While you're feeling spicy toward everybody all the time, maybe you need a little
Uh,
bit of sleep. So, Raphael, I'm so glad that you came on to Strong Mind, Strong Body and shared. Again, this is Raphael Konforti, and he is the YouFit Senior Director of Fitness. And we talked about, how to motivate clients and maximize motivation. And I feel like, Raphael, if there's anybody out there who can speak to this, it's you. I'd love to have you interview me for what motivates me because I feel like you could get in deeper to what motivates me than I can. As a matter of fact, I'm going to have to hang up from this podcast and I have to call you up and be like, okay, can you get in deep? Because I've been lacking some motivation lately. So,
yeah.
is there anything that you want to say before we take off? And anything you want to add?
Well, so when I think about this topic and why it's important, I've worked with a lot of trainers who are entering the industry, and one of the most common things that I hear is, I don't want to work with unmotivated clients. I only want to work with clients who are going to do their diet log, they're going to do their exercise homework, they're going to do everything I tell them to.
Hmm.
What we have to remember is the reason why they are coming to us is because they do need help with those things. So we can either, maybe be frustrated with that situation and think that we're not working with clients, or like the content on this podcast and things that we've talked about, you can get the skills to help them uncover those motivations. But remember, our role is not just to facilitate exercise, not just to coach nutrition. It's ultimately to keep them consistent. And the only way you can do that is figuring out why this is important to them. That's how you sell the training, get started. But that's also down the road when maybe the nutrition is a little bit iffy, or maybe the recovery is slipping. You can bring them back to that reason and keep them motivated, because ultimately, I think as trainers, we want people to be successful for life. We want them to be consistent. And the only way you can do that is by knowing what makes them tick and helping them see that and remember that.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you added that in because, that's like saying I only want kids who are going to be well behaved or I only want a spouse who's going to listen to everything I say. So, I mean, at the end of the day, if clients were already motivated, they probably wouldn't even be coming to us. And chances are they're much more motivated than we recognize that they are once we, to your point, get to the right questions and we extract the right information that we need to help them discover, hey, it turns out I am motivated. Heck, if I weren't, I wouldn't even be here today. I wouldn't
Mhm.
even be talking to this person. So there's obviously some level of motivation that got them there in the first place.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great point. So Raphael, thank you so much for joining us today on Strong Mind, Strong Body. If people want to reach out to you with any questions, how would they connect with you?
Sure. Always available for questions. I love talking fitness. On LinkedIn, you can search my name, Raphael Konforti. You can go to youfitgyms.com as well. But you search my name, you'll find Instagram, LinkedIn, all under the same name.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for joining us on Strong Mind, Strong Body. We will see you next week.